Let me introduce you to this new invention called bronze. It makes hats, armor, or even spears. Ow. But most importantly, when it's melted, it makes our little caveman brains go ooga booga because glowy hot liquid looks very cool. And in Gravitas 2, we can actually cast metals using a crucible into different molds in order to make our tools. And so that's what I've set out to do today, getting ourselves set up with melting down metals and then eventually getting into Create so we can start moving these liquids around using pipes and channels. But quite a lot has changed around the base, so let me quickly cover all of that. Well, number one, we actually have a house now. I built this one off camera. This is a starter house, despite the fact that it is pretty massive. And I believe I made this out of gabbro bricks here and Douglas fir, which is one of the trees that's native to this island. Off camera, I've done quite a little bit of exploring, picking ourselves up some different kinds of berry bushes, coffee trees over here. We've got olives, and I believe, yeah, these ones here are oranges, so we got those as well. Now, it is in the middle of winter, so nothing is going to be growing. And over here, we've got a load of different bushes. Blackberry bushes, blueberry bushes, and raspberry bushes. So when it comes around to summer, we should be pretty sorted on food. Now, obviously, in the wintertime, we're pretty much screwed. So right now, I have just been fighting anything that spawns in this lake, such as this group of cod over here. Mine. So at some point it would be good to get a better source of food or somewhere for us to store our food through the winter time so we don't get screwed like we currently are. We've also got some beehives over here. The way that you make that is really simple. You just get some of the lumber where we use a saw and cut down some of our planks. Pop some thatch, that's just basic straw, and then some beehives, again using lumber. And if you pop those in an area with a load of flowers, I harvested a bunch using my knife around here, you'll start to get yourself some bee queens. Now, right now it's too cold for them to produce honey, but right here are some of the frames that we've got that later on we can actually collect some honey. And here we go. Speaking of the devil, here's one of these little bees here. Thought it was too cold, but apparently someone here has the ability to actually survive this winter. That's crazy. And I'm sure there'll be loads to update you on, but we'll do that throughout the video. So let's begin with the mini house tour. If I come upstairs here, I've got all of my valuables here, as well as some drawers. We're actually able to use storage drawers, and these aren't half bad. They just require some planks and a chest, and they store 512 of each item, which is so much better than what we've currently been doing upstairs with our chest setup. And speaking of upstairs, here is our chest setup. We've got tons of random to really struggling to keep this organised at the moment, so I'm sure we'll upgrade this later on. We've also had a couple of visitors to this island. For example, we had Cthulhu and Lord of the Manor, who pounced on me whilst I was building my house, and then tagged me with this trident. So at some point, we need to get our own back and tag someone else. So we'll have to find our next victim for this. And we've also had Lanesy visit us, one of the new members on the server, so that is awesome. I hope to see them soon. They wrote me a really nice sign, how kind. Guys, shout out Lanesy. And Cthulhu has dropped us off 500 millibuckets of aged whiskey. I feel like we need to operate some heavy machinery whilst having some booze. I think that would be a really good idea, so hopefully soon we'll also do that as well. Don't look at me, I'm not going to animate this sequence. What did you expect? It's highly irresponsible, downright illegal. I wouldn't animate this. Oh, him in the background. Oh, no, he's training. Have you liked and subscribed, by the way? Anyway, back to the quests. Chapter 1. We've got a few things to make, and a couple of them I've already done off camera just to learn it. But we'll go through it together because I still think this is really, really useful to understand the basics of TerrafirmaCraft and Gravitas. And let's start off with how we're able to get leather. Leather's used for loads of different things, such as a leather flask, which we can actually carry around water. We can use it to make a backpack. Really nice. I've already got both of those things, if you couldn't tell by the water flask down here and also my copper backpack. If I go to my mob drops storage just here, we've got a bunch of different raw hides. And depending on the animal, you obviously get a different size of hide. Large coming from things like bears, medium from cows and whatnot, and small probably from rabbits, if I had to guess. And these quests show us that there are quite a lot of steps to actually create ourselves the leather that we need. First of all, we have to let it soak. We have to get our small hide and let it soak in lime water. For now, I will take, let's go with 8 of our small raw hides. And I have prepared some barrels over here, full of water. We've actually been collecting all of the rainwater that we need. Obviously right now it's winter and so we get snow, so we actually don't fill these up, but that is why I've left these out in the open. The barrels and most of the wood things will just be using that lumber that we get from a saw and chopping down our logs using it. And so we need to soak these hides in lime water. To get lime water, we need to mix water with flux or lime. Later on, there are some interesting recipes we can use to get flux, such as using a quern, mill, or even crushing it. However, for now, we can just grab things like chalk and all the different stones and whack it with a hammer. So we've got some loose chalk rock here. If I quickly craft myself a new hammer, like so, a stone hammer, and pop that in with a stick, I can then craft the loose chalk rock with my hammer, and that's how I get flux. And then to make the lime water, all I need to do is pop my flux in here, and it will instantly convert it into lime water. So now that we've got that, let's pop in our raw hide, and then I'll seal up this barrel. And it says, in the meantime, this is going to take 8 minutes to soak our hides. So let's get ourselves set up for the next stage, which is scraping our hides. We're going to need a knife for this. I don't seem to have one, so I guess I'll just have to go and make myself a new one. Got a load of rocks here, and I believe it's the exact same recipe that we've done before, like that, and we get 2 stone knife heads, and we can grab some sticks to convert these guys into knives. Oh, I already had one here. Oops. I guess now's also a good time to say that I have popped on a texture pack. We're using the Vexed Visuals TFC pack. This is really cool. This basically converts a lot of the textures to use the vanilla textures, or just some graphically updated ones, such as our bronze. It looks a lot nicer. So I really, really like this texture pack. I think most people on the server are using it. Also, our logs actually become real log textures. Beforehand, they were this 2D sprite, which did look cool, but I much prefer having it look like the vanilla log. But that's why a lot of my items might be textured a little bit differently if you're playing along. So that is now completed. We have the small soaked hides. I'm going to shift right click and grab these guys out. And so scraping, we need to grab ourselves any kind of log and place it down. And if I right click my hide on top of the log, you'll see it will place it. And what we need to do is basically scrape off the top surface of this hide. And you'll see that once that is done, we now have the small scraped hide, and I can literally just pull it off like that. And obviously I need to do that with every single one of these hides, and you will use a lot of your knife doing this. So just be aware of that. Perfect, that is the last bit of hide that we did. So that is now the small scraped hide all sorted. What have we got next? Well, in the quest book, it says that we need to let this soak in a water barrel. So let's pop that in there and just seal it like so. And that's going to take another 8 minutes. Whilst that's all going on, I want to make myself a bed. And we can do that. We can make a really makeshift bed by plopping down 2 bits of thatch and then right-clicking with a large raw hide on the top like so. And that will give us a thatch bed. This thatch bed is too uncomfortable to sleep in, so we won't actually be able to reset the day. But we can set our spawn point, which is really good. But eventually, I really want to get ourselves a proper bed. I don't entirely know whether that'll be for this episode because it's quite an involved process and we have to get sheepskin, and I haven't actually seen a single sheep so far. They might be in a completely different biome, I'm not entirely sure. Either way, what I do want to do is grab myself a kayak. It's a little bit faster than our canoe, but it needs 2 large waterproof hides. So we need to get ourselves 2 of these hides scraped down. So I'm also going to pop those in our lime water to get that process cooking. Right, and our small scraped hide is now done. We've got the prepared hide. So what do we do with this? Well, it's the last recipe to finally get that leather. We need to pop it in with some tannin. The way that we get tannin is by placing any kind of specific log. In this case, I believe our fir and our maple logs work inside water and then waiting 8 minutes, and that will turn it into tannin. But luckily, I've already done it. So I'm going to leave that in there, press seal, and that will finally turn it into leather. After 8 minutes, of course. So that's now done, and we finally have our 8 leather. Oh my goodness, that unlocks so much. Ooh, and we also get some leather boots as a reward. Cool. So with the leather, we can craft ourselves a backpack. Now, I've already done this. That's what you'd use, and I upgraded mine to the copper tier. Then I also crafted myself a flask. You need to make these leather flask sides, which is basically just napping your leather into this shape here. And then you use a bladder, which is dropped by a few mobs to finally make that leather flask. Now, it does have a bit of durability. That blue bar down here is its durability, and we do have to repair it, but luckily we can repair it just with more bladders, and that will refresh that whole durability. But that allows us to hold 5 drinks of water, or 500 millibuckets. And then lastly, one of the most important things we need to create is the bellows. The bellows allow us to increase airflow, which means that we can burn things at a higher temperature. So when we're doing things like the charcoal forge that I'll show in a little while, and the fire pit, we're able to get it a little bit hotter. So previously, I showed you about the ingot molds or any kind of unfired clay vessel. And you'd have to dig a pit kiln, fill it up with straw and wood, and then light that on fire to actually turn these into their proper mold form. If I pop them in my charcoal forge that I made last episode, it reaches up to the yellow-white tier. However, if I look into the heating recipe, we need to get a little bit hotter, and that is where I can just simply pump the bellows and that will finally heat it up enough to smelt into the ingot molds. You'll also see certain ores like hematite, they actually require you to be at brilliant white stage, which means we do need to use those bellows as well, and that will finally allow ourselves to melt down cast iron. So these bellows are incredibly useful. Also, our large prepared hide is now done, so I want to get that kayak that I was talking about. To do that, we need to get the large waterproof hide, which means we need beeswax. Now, I got beeswax from our bees, and bees have a chance to spawn in once you've got flowers nearby your hive, and once you've got bees, you can actually scrape them like this, and you'll kill the queen inside, but as a result you'll get beeswax, which is really, really useful because this is what we're going to be using to make our waterproof hide. And I'm making sure to keep myself 2 bees in each hive just to make sure that they will breed and fill out the rest of these beehive frames. Right, so that is the 2 large waterproof hides required, as well as our Douglas fir lumber. And now we can craft the kayak. Perfect. Now for that, we do still need to grab ourselves the kayak paddle, which is really easy. And let's test out how quick this is versus our little canoe that we've had earlier. I'll plonk that down here, jump inside and hold our kayak paddle. And let's skate off. Okay. Yeah, that feels significantly quicker. Wow. Oh yeah, that's going to make travelling so much easier. Proper good stuff. And that also gives us a chance to explore the area a little bit. We've got a load of volcanoes on this island. And I've been told by Lord of the Manor that this up here is a really nice view. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, you got 2 volcanoes over here and a cliff. I mean, right now we're just pacing through this river. This is really cool. I love this. Yeah, what a cool area, man. I'm glad I settled around here. Although, I say that, we are next to volcanoes. Active volcanoes, might I add. So hopefully I won't be regretting that. Super, super handy. And I believe, yeah, we can also break it as well, meaning that we can actually take our kayak wherever we want. Unlike these canoes, which are just there, they're static. We can't actually move them now. So that's really cool. I'm going to plop both of these guys just there for whenever I want to go and travel. And so next up, we need to get into metalworking. Specifically, we need to get ourselves a copper anvil. Yes, I know I've already got one, but let's pretend here. And the way that we get that is by getting ourselves 7 copper double ingots, which requires welding. So for our 7 double ingots, I'm going to need, whoops, I miscalculated. We're going to need 14 copper ingots. And I also need to grab myself some flux, which I've got here. I showed you how to make that earlier using chalk. And I've got a hammer as well, a copper hammer to be more precise. And if you don't have a copper anvil, you actually have to use the raw stone, the rock anvil. This will only be used for that copper tier. And the way that you do that is just find yourself some sort of form of hard rock, like diorite, and then just right click with a hammer. And now you've got an anvil, but you'll only be able to use copper materials on it, and that's why we need to make the copper anvil. And so what I need to do is grab some charcoal, and we're going to start setting off charcoal forge. Got my fire starter down here, and let's relight this. Perfect. And I'm going to just bellow this a little bit and pop in 4 of my copper ingots. I could put in 5, but then we'll just be wasting that slot there. So let's pop in 4, and we need this to be hot enough where this says that it can weld. So right now it's at dark red and it says it can work. That would allow us to start anviling our stuff, but we need it to be even hotter than this so that we can weld it. So I'm going to keep that going. I've got to be a little bit careful here that we don't go too hot. There we go, can weld. So what I'm going to do is let that go a little bit longer, and I'm going to take both of these out, pop both of them in there, shift right click, and that gets us a double ingot. I need to do the exact same. Ooh, that was really close. Pop them both in like that, and there we go. That is how we make these double ingots. So I'm going to do that with the rest of these copper ingots. Now, if you overheat the ingots, they're actually going to melt down. And if you don't have anything in these slots here, they're just going to disappear. So if that's the case, my recommendation, just to be safe, is to pop a vessel in this top right corner. You won't use it, but if you do manage to melt it, at least it's got somewhere to go, so it's not just completely voided. Right, and that is our last double ingot. And so with all those double ingots, you would use that to make the copper anvil. Now, I've already got one here. So that is chapter 1 almost completed. We still need to do the wall quest line here, which I'm sure we'll get back round to. But for now, that does mean we can now move into chapter 2. And one of the first things that we need to do is sort out the bronze anvil. This is a tier 2 anvil. So that does mean that we can now work with materials that require higher tiered anvils. And when we get into raw iron, we definitely need a tier 2 anvil to be able to actually work with this material. And so I've got to do the exact same thing, but now with bronze. Now, luckily, I've got a load of bronze already. I've been mining a little bit, so I don't actually need to alloy any more. But I do have some tin and some more copper, so if we do need more bronze, we can get it through that way. So without further ado, let's heat up the forge once again and get ourselves the bronze anvil. Pop all of our bronze in there like so, and we'll do the exact same. Now, luckily, bronze can actually weld at a bit of a lower temperature, so I can do both of these guys. It'll be a little bit quicker. Perfect. We'll pop that one in as well. And then our final double bronze ingot. Oh, finally. So now we can craft all of those together to make ourselves the bronze anvil that we need. And that should be the other quest unlocked. Perfect. And I can replace our current copper anvil. Awesome. Oh, I've got 2 anvils. Oh, that's weighed me down so much. Hold on. There we go. Put that down, put the flux back in, and then I'll put the copper hammer in back as well. Right, so this quest line looks insane. We've got a few different places that we can go with this, but ultimately we'll need all of this to finally get into Gregtech. One of the first resources that we'll need is graphite, and we can find this lying around in a few different places, but mostly deep underground. The way that we can find graphite is by using the prospector's pick. Now, you could use the regular prospector's pick that I showed off last episode. However, I've crafted a mineral prospector's pick. And now that we've got that bronze anvil, you could either do it through anviling, which I'll show soon, or you could do the way that I did at the time, which was just casting it in these molds. And the mineral prospector pick is a variation on the regular prospector's pick. But instead of reporting ores, it will report minerals, such as graphite and kaolinite. And so we can right-click on the surface to see if we can find some graphite deposits. And I'll warn you, this took me ages to find graphite, and you won't guess where it was. Back at the old base, it's actually been redone a little bit. It looks quite nice now, no longer a lawn base. But over here, I searched for ages to try and find graphite, and we did find it, but in the weirdest spot. Let me see. Right, so this is where the base is. We found it, if you go down here, through this water stream, and work your way all the way down into this mine. It opens up into a pretty massive cave. And I'm going to make sure to keep some torches on me to keep this lit. Yeah, right. So here is the massive cave I was on about, including this fella. A little bit scary. I don't know what he's about. But I'll jump down. Ooh, and these cog minions I've been harvesting because they occasionally drop ancient brass, which we can melt down into brass, which is really useful later on. But around here, in this cave, we found a load of different minerals. But there's loads of stuff down here. We've got bauxite, we've got glauconite, beniatite. I'm going to butcher all of the names here. Oh, and I'm going to drown as well. Here was all of the graphite that we found. Look at this thing. We made a little mini mine shaft area just here where we'd been taking out a bunch of this graphite. And that's how we got a pretty good source of it. Since I've last been here, someone seems to have caved it in though. So I guess we'll probably avoid mining here for now. But luckily, I did pick up a ton. So let's head back. And we're also going to need kaolinite powder. Basically, where we're trying to end up is at the Crucible stage right now. The way that you get kaolinite powder is you get kaolin clay. And kaolin clay is ridiculously hard to find. You'll see here it's got really specific requirements. It spawns at high altitude in plateaus, old mountains and highlands at temperatures of at least 18 degrees C with rainfall of at least 300 meters. So if you go into your blaze map, you can see all of these features. We're getting a lot of rain here. We've got a really hot temperature here. And then we luckily found a good source of this stuff. Thank goodness for waystones, man, because this is 8,000 blocks away from my actual house. But when you find it, you can just mine it up like so, and you'll get yourself the kaolin clay. So now that we've got the kaolinite clay, to turn that into the powder form, we need to smelt it up. Now we can heat this. I'm going to guess we can also do this in a charcoal forge. But it does have a 20% chance. Eventually, when we get into smelting or even bulk blasting, this will be 100%. So let's test this out in the forge. I'm going to quickly light this up. And then I'll plonk down my kaolin clay. And I'm hoping that should work and turn it into that kaolinite powder. Oh, okay. Right, there we go. Oh, wow. Yeah, that really is a 20% chance. Ouch. So now I've smelted down the kaolinite clay. I can't lie, I used someone's create contraption. And the other thing that we now need is to get graphite powder. And so we need to crush it up. And the recommendation, it says, is to use 2x querns. And the way that we make a quern is through smooth stone. Right, okay. This won't be particularly difficult. We just need to get some of the raw material. And the way that we get that is a little bit odd. Basically, what we're aiming to do here is use gravity to drop these blocks so that the block comes loose, a bit like that. And that should have dropped it. Yeah, it did. And for 2 querns, we're going to need 6 on each of these. So we're going to need 12 of the raw material. And the last block of raw diorite just there. We've now got 12 of the diorite. And all it costed us was irreparable damage to the side of our volcano. Nice. So now that's done, I have prepared myself a bronze chisel, and I should be able to do half of that into smooth diorite like so, which will allow us to make 2 querns. Perfect. Awesome. That is 1 handstone done, and the second one as well. That should be that quest completed. Okay, cool. Right, in the quest book, it shows us that we need the millstone, but to be completely honest with you, I don't think we do. We can get away with it just from using the quern. If I look at the recipe for graphite powder, you can see it's the exact same, and we get the exact same amount. So it really doesn't matter by the looks of it what we quern up. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's probably kern or something. Oh well. So let's give it a go. I believe we grab the quern, we pop it over here, and the handstone on top like that, and then just grab a little bit of our graphite. Let's test this out. I pop it in the top like that, and then we just spin it. Okay. Pretty cool. I've not seen this before. Ooh, okay, nice. So that's how we get our graphite powder. Right, I will chop all of this up to get ourselves a load of this powder. I do want to go into the Create way. However, I'm trying to avoid it for a little bit until we get the Crucible, because I think making this alloy will be a little bit easier. There's a whole involved process with this, and we have to melt it down anyway. So if we can get to the Crucible, I almost want to backtrack around to the Create stuff. So awesome. Right, that is the graphite powder. That's done. We've got the kaolinite powder. So that now leaves us with fire clay, which is just kaolinite powder, graphite powder, and then some clay balls. And I'll try and make as much of this as possible. The biggest thing that we need out of this is the unfired Crucible. That's made with 5 fire clay, so we can definitely do that right now. Perfect. So the Crucible will actually melt up all of our stuff, and we can actually pour our molds directly through channels. But to do that, we're going to need some more fire clay, and we need to have mold tables as well as, yeah, these casting channels. So what I'm going to do is grab a little bit more of our fire clay and then make some of that. We've got quite a little bit of this stuff. I'm going to first make these 4 casting channels. It doesn't look too difficult. We can get 4 of them. And then I'll make a couple of these mold tables. I'm going to try and aim for maybe 4 of them for now. I think that'll probably be a good number. Now we need to fire these up, and we should be able to do that in the fire pit. I've got some charcoal ready. We've got some fire starters. Let's cook this guy up. We'll pop all of that in there. And then hopefully just use the bellows a couple of times to really heat this up. Right, there we go. Cool. The casting channel's done. And then I guess this one's a little bit longer. I'll also pop the mold tables in there as well and get these guys all going. Cool. That's the Crucible done and our mold tables. But I guess it's probably time to show you what we're going to be doing with all those casting basins, etc. Well, I can place the Crucible on top of our forge like this, and now I can actually put items in here to smelt up, and it will use the bellow and the forge underneath to get that all cooking up. Now, I can then use the casting channels to pull out of the Crucible and place into our casting molds. So what I'm going to do is pull that line out, and then I'll pop all of my mold tables on the outer edge like this. So now we're going to need some ingot molds to start casting things into. And we can use the basic ones that we've been making before out of clay. They have a 10% chance of breaking though. Yeah, there we go. If I hold shift, it says 10% chance of breaking upon casting. Or we could use the fire ingot mold, which has a 1% chance. But that does require our fire clay, which right now is pretty rare. I don't want to be using too much of it, so I'll probably just rely on our regular clay. Right, so there we go. Let's grab 32 of these ingots and let's find some raw material that we could smelt up. Okay, cool. Right, I've got a bunch of sphalerite here, which is actually zinc. So what I'm going to do is go over to our Crucible, open up the forge and pop our charcoal in like we normally would, as well as using our fire starter here to light it like so. And that will set that off. If I use the bellows as well, we can get this to heat up quicker. And now I'm in the Crucible, and you can see here, it shows me how hot it's getting, and I can put all of my items in here. So let's pop every single bit of sphalerite in there, and that is cooking away, and will now eventually melt down into its zinc liquid. That is now melted up. We've got 696 millibuckets. I don't exactly know how many ingots that is, but I'll pop down an ingot mold in this mold table here. And then if I just right click on the spout over here, it will cast directly into that mold table. And you'll see that once that is done, it will stop pouring. And now it's going to be hardening. Really cool. So I have an ingot mold here already filled with a little bit of zinc. What I actually need to do is pour that on top like so. And then how much have we got left? We've got quite a lot. So I'm just going to pour the rest of that into these molds over here. Now, obviously, these guys are going to need to cool down. It's still molten. But what I can do instead is just pick them all up like so. And just toss them into this water over here. And that will cool them down a lot quicker. Right. There we go. I'm going to pick them all up. I've heard the fizzing stop. So that's the sign that it's done. And now, yeah, they're all ready to go. And I can just shift right click to pop out these zinc ingots. So we had 1 ingot mold break. But I believe we've got enough for maybe 2. I think 1 and a bit. So tell you what, we're going to put that one there. I'm going to make sure that's going to pour a full ingot into this one. And then any of the excess, we've got 112, I'll pour into another ingot cast. Awesome. Right, so this will actually make a full ingot. This one won't, but we might as well pop both of them in the water to solidify them. Right, so now we've got a load of zinc from our sphalerite, and we didn't have to melt it up into a vessel. We could just cast it straight into an ingot mold. So let's work on our next tools. One of the first things that I want is one of those 3x3 hammers. They're called mining hammers, and we could make a couple. We could make the bronze one here. That would require bronze plates. However, there is one here called the rose gold mining hammer, and that has significantly more durability, and it has this really nice effect of Fortune 2 on it by default. So this is really good. I really want this. The way that you make rose gold is through alloying, and the ratio is here. 15 to 30% copper and 70 to 85% gold. Now, we obviously have a lot more copper than gold, and copper is a lot easier to get. So I'd be a lot more keen on using more copper than gold. So in that case, for what, the 30% to 70%, I'm going to use 6 copper and then 14 gold, and that should be the perfect ratio to give us as much rose gold as possible. Now, for our mining hammer, we need 6 gold plates, and we can get that with double ingots. So really, we need 12 ingots, and that should be enough. So we'll give that a go. What I'll do is smelt that all up in my Crucible, which does actually alloy things together. So let's test that all out. Whack in both our copper and our gold, and I'll let that all alloy up. We've got enough of the copper in there, and now we're just doing the rest of the gold. Okay, the last bit of the gold, and that should turn it into rose gold. Yes, perfect. Right, so what we'll do is plop down all of our ingot molds, and then we'll cast them. And then once that's done, I'm going to plop them all off, like so, and then put more ingot molds in, melt that up, and whilst that's cooking up, I'm going to throw all of those in the water. Perfect. Right, nice. So now we have 20 rose gold. Again, we only need 12 of it, so I'm going to actually pop the rest of it back in our base. Just over here. And now what we need to do is just heat this up to work with that metal. So I'll set off the forge again, but this time I'm going to just use it in the forge directly and not the crucible. What we'll do is plop down 4 of our rose gold there, because, again, we need to compact 2 of these into the rose gold double ingot so that we can make our plates. And like last time, because this is quite valuable, I'm going to pop the vessel in here just in case anything goes wrong. I'm just watching to when I can see can weld. Right, perfect. I'm going to let that heat up just a little bit longer, just so that we've got a bit more extra time. Maybe like that. Pull it all out. Pop 2 in there. Weld them together. Again, do the same with that one. And right now, I'm going to work this into a plate. And chances are I'm going to do this in post-commentary because I'm useless. Yep, he was right. I'm here in post-commentary. The way that this anviling minigame works is you've got a target number to reach. Some of the buttons will add to this number and some will take away. Alongside this, on the top of your screen, you'll see 3 icons, and this will be what you need to do to finish off the item. Now, I've currently got a texture pack on, which is called the TFC Anvil Helper, which really does help out, showing you what you need to hit to get whatever target number. So the game is basically trying to hit this target number whilst doing those 3 methods to finish off your item, and all whilst that's going on, you need to manage the heat of your item, constantly dipping it back into the forge when it gets too cold to work with. And we have to do this quite a lot, so you will get used to this minigame quite quickly. It's very difficult to explain. But trust me, after a while of doing this, you'll get the hang of it, and you'll be able to do a plate really quickly. For example, this is my speed run of trying to make a rose gold plate. Check this out. Okay, right. Moment of truth. Can I do it this quickly? Let's see. Oh, mate, behave. I can't lie, I did this mechanic on stream and I absolutely hated it, but now I'm almost getting the hang of it. It's actually quite fun. So we need a hammer and we need a file. Ooh, right. The file I didn't actually have a look at. So let's see. Can I make a bronze one? I can. Now I do wonder whether there's a certain level of file you need to be able to file these down. I hope not. It does look like any kind of one works, so I've just got to be a bit careful with it. However, the lowest file we can get is a bronze file, which is a little bit annoying, but that's fine. We'll just weld up a couple bits of bronze and do it ourselves. Bang, bang, bang. Oh, I missed it. And then it's hit, draw, shrink. Perfect. We'll grab our saw, turn that into lumber, and then turn it into a small tool handle. Combine these two together like that. Bronze file. Okay. Whew. So, moment of truth. We need a hammer. I'm going to grab the copper hammer out of here. And then combine that all together to make ourselves the rose gold mining hammer. Oh my goodness, this is a huge moment. Okay, so now that I've got my rose gold mining hammer, I think we should probably demo how you mine in TerrafirmaCraft. And that is by using supports. So I found a nice vein of malachite here, which is basically copper when we smelt it down. And I want to try and find the top of this. But first, I'm going to go into this wooden storage crate that I've got and pick up some of the wooden supports here. I'm using willow because it's probably one of the ugliest woods. I honestly really don't know how to build with this, so I'm using it as supports. So I've picked up quite a few of these guys, and I'll just build... Let's go up to about here, because I think that'll probably be at the top of that malachite deposit. So what I want to do is basically break out an area of 3x3 where I can place my supports, like so. So, if I place a support like this, it places 3 up like so, and then if I do the same on this side, it places 3. And what I want to do is basically have a bar in between, and that will support all of this structure. You'll see up at the top it says supported and won't trigger collapse. So what I'm going to do now is just mine off in this direction until we get to a unsupported bit like this, and we'll do the exact same. So now it's supported. I could also add supports here and here, and that'll add some additional support around as well. So I'll dig forward until we're unsupported again. There we go. Continuing on this trend here. Oh, what's going on? Right, there we go. And I should also be able to mine the sides of these walls because they're supported as well. And we're not going to trigger a collapse. So here, we obviously would. So I'm going to try and mine here all the way until it says unsupported. And that is where we place more of these guys in that. And so that's basically how you mine. You just mine within the supports, and then you build more supports to expand your mining area. Or at least that's what I think you're supposed to do. I'm not the best at this, and I have had many cave-ins because I'm just not very good with it. Oh, Jesus. Right. Okay. Now, I had been doing some mining earlier underneath here, and I think that was why that triggered a collapse. And right now, this mine does look a little bit shaky, so I don't know whether I'm going to keep mining here. The one thing that I do know, however, is that it's a lot less risky to just be mining straight down using the mining hammer, rather than tunneling across, because that's usually when you'll get your cave-ins. However, to mine straight down, you're going to need to support your beams differently, and so you can use an anti-gravity block like a wooden plank to then place your beams on, to then set up all of your supports. Okay, right, I know that my mining technique probably agitated quite a lot of people, and I was doing it very wrong, but check this out. Look at this. See? I've only been mining down, and I've not had any problems. So, I don't want to say I advise you guys to do this, because I think I'm still doing this wrong, but I've had a lot less problems going down directly, rather than making tunnels to the side. By the looks of it, I think, if I just sort of mined in this area, we're not going to have any collapses. I hope. I'll do another layer just to test. Oh no, see? Look, it's all over here. It's not actually under our support, so I think we are okay. I don't trust these noises though, man. I can't wait to see the comments for this video. I'd also like to get into Create. Now, Create and Gravitas works the exact same as regular Create, however, the andesite alloy has been replaced with igneous zinc alloy. And there's a whole process that we need to do to get a hold of it. The first thing we need to get our hand on is a stone bowl and a flint pestle to make the flint mortar. The stone bowl seems pretty reasonable. We just need to quickly make it like... I've already messed it up. We just need to make it by carving it out like so, and that'll give us the stone bowl. As for the flint pestle, again, it's just napping as well. So I'll grab a little bit of flint here, and then we'll just copy this one like that, and that is our flint pestle. And if I craft those together, we get the flint mortar. Perfect. And then with our flint mortar, to get the igneous alloy dust, we need to combine igneous dust, which we can get from crushing up igneous rock, and then crushing up small piles of zinc dust, and we get that from crushing up a zinc ingot. So I've got a load of this basalt rock, and I think that can be crushed up, yeah, there we go, into igneous dust. So that's great. And then obviously we need to crush up some zinc ingots as well. And that will give us zinc dust that we need. And then if I pop that in a crafting table up at the top slot, I get small piles of zinc dust. Having the small piles of zinc dust and the igneous dust, that will allow us to create the igneous alloy dust. And that is 1 whole ingot per dust. And so I will pop that all in our crucible with a bit of charcoal in here, and we'll light that all up to melt that down into the igneous alloy dust. And then I'll pop ingot molds down here so that when that's melted up, we can then pour it into the molds. Right, that's molten now. I'll pour that into the molds, and then I'm going to swap out these guys like that, then pour some more in, and that should be all 8 done. The next thing that I want to make is a bloomery. If I have a look at the quest guide down here, this is how we get wrought iron. And wrought iron is super important for basically everything Create. Anything automation, for example hoppers, they use wrought iron just here. And almost everything basically relies on it. We've got the encased fan here. I'm guessing, yeah, that uses wrought iron. It's a massively important resource. And the way that we get it is through the Bloomery. Now the Bloomery is 8 double welded bronze plates, and every double bronze plate is just 2 bronze plates welded together. And obviously every bronze plate is 2 ingots fused together as well. So in total we need about 32 bronze ingots to make this. However, some people on my team have already got Create set up, and so I'm going to actually use this method, which will halve the bronze cost, because we no longer need the bronze double ingot, we can just press it like that. So I've popped over to Vlofast space, and yeah, this is incredible. Look at the work that he's done in here. But over here is his Create factory, so I'm going to quickly plonk this down on the mechanical press just here. We'll use 16 of those to get ourselves the bronze plates. Okay, these plates are almost ready to weld. We'll pop both of them in there and then just whack them together like that. And we'll do the same with these two as well. And we need to do this a few more times until we have 8 double bronze plates. Okay, and the last 2 plates that need to be done. And that will be every plate we need for our bloomery. So let's pop them all together like this and craft ourselves the bloomery. So for the bloomery to work, we're going to need quite a lot of this brick material here. And I believe we can use most bricks. So what I'm going to do is use basalt cobble. I think a dark texture would look really good. So what we need to do is convert our basalt cobble into the loose basalt rock. Use a chisel to convert that into brick. And then we need mortar, which is just lime mortar mixed with sand. And that'll get you 16 mortar. And if you combine those two together, you'll get a bunch of bricks. So there we go. That's quite a lot of basalt bricks to get us started. My understanding of the bloomery is that we need to use 2 charcoal and 144 millibuckets of cast iron. So I've got a bunch of hematite here that I've picked up. That is 6 ingots in total, and every ingot is 144 millibuckets. So that means I'm going to need 12 of the charcoal to throw in with this stuff. And I've made this structure over here using the bricks. It's a really simple structure, it doesn't require too much effort, and you can extend this vertically as many blocks as you want. So I've done it a little bit here, nothing too major, and I'm going to pop some ladders on the side because I need to pop the bloomery block here. I'll open that, and then I'm going to throw in the throw in 12 charcoal and all of my hematite. I think that's worked. That should create a bloom. I go down here. Yeah, I can see that. It looks like it's done it. Let's grab my flint and steel. You can use a fire starter, but I got a flint and steel. And we can just set that alight. I don't know how this works. Ah, right, okay. We just need to use a fire starter on the bloomery itself. It will take 15 minutes in total. Right, okay. I guess I've got to wait. Right, that is now completed. So we now have the bloom. And I believe I just have to pickaxe it. Get the wrought iron from it. Looking good. Now this is very hot, and I believe you have to work this in an anvil to turn it into a refined iron bloom. Right, okay, we'll give this a go then. Although I think first of all it has to be heated up to be able to work with it. Nice. Okay, that's 1 raw iron ingot. Nice. Right, that is the 6th raw iron ingot. Let me cool all these guys down. Perfect. Right. So, now we have wrought iron. One of the first things that I want to make with that wrought iron is a mechanical press. Obviously, we're going to have to find a way to power this, but for now, we just need to get ourselves 2 raw iron ingots and double that up and weld those together. There we go. That's done. Let's weld them together. Perfect. That is the wrought iron double ingot. Right, so to make the rest of the mechanical press, we need shafts. That's easy. That's just the same regular recipe to get ourselves those. Perfect. And then we need igneous zinc casing, which seems to be the exact same thing. We just need to get some stripped logs. Let's give that a shot. Do that. Right click like that. Perfect. Right, that's the casing done. And now we've made ourselves the mechanical press. Awesome. So to test this out, I want to make myself the hand crank. That's just an igneous zinc alloy and then treated planks. You specifically have to use treated planks, but there are a variety you can use. One of the easiest ones you can get is these ones here using treated lumber. And the way that you get that is any kind of lumber with beeswax in the center, and that'll get you 8. So let's go ahead, grab ourselves a saw and then some of, I guess, our willow, because that's the one that we don't use much of. Saw that into lumber. Pop that in the crafting table with the beeswax in the center. And that gets us the treated lumber. So the hand crank, that is done. Perfect. One of the first things that I want to make are chutes. This will allow us to do a bit more automation with Create. Could try for a hopper, but I haven't seen that recipe. Yeah, it's about the same roughly. You use 2 iron plates anyway, but with the chutes you get 4, so I think I'm going to stick around with the chutes. And so I will set up the mechanical press just here temporarily, pop a hand crank on it, and then I can throw my raw iron ingot in there and bonk it to create a plate. Let's grab that, and then I shall make the chutes. So why do I want the chutes, you might be asking? Well, instead of using casting via the casting channels, we can actually use pumps to pump out of the crucible directly straight into the mould table and then use a chute to pull out the ingot, therefore saving us a bunch of time having to come back here, check on our ingots, then right click over here to actually pour them. It would just be so much simpler. So let's make ourselves the mechanical pump. For that we need to get copper plates and copper ingots, and if you remember I had some copper double ingots lying around when we were making the anvil. So I flattened those out into plates, and then I just need another copper ingot, and that will allow us to make the fluid pipes we need. And then for the cogs, in order to make this, it's just a shaft and a treated wood plank, and that is the cogwheel. Let's combine 2 of those together, and that's the mechanical pump sorted. So I want to test something. I'm going to take all of this stuff out just over here and pop the mechanical pump onto the crucible. Now that is facing the wrong way, and I don't think we're going to have access to a wrench anytime soon. Yeah, not entirely sure about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place the mould table first and then the pump like that. So we're pouring out of the crucible into the mould table. Now, if I dig down here, there is a bit of a water pit here, so I've got to be a bit careful, and pop a chute underneath it, and then a chest, I should be able to place it just below that chute here. And that is looking good. That's still accessible. Oh, and also we're going to need a cogwheel just here with a hand crank on it, like so. So when I turn this, it will pour out from the crucible into this mold table and then drop it into the chest. Upstairs, I've got all of the spoils from our malachite mining trip, so I'm going to grab a bunch. Let's do the rich malachite for now, as well as the normal. I'll do the poor ones right after. So let me go over to the forge. I'll pop in the charcoal like that and set that alight, and then we'll plonk down all of our rich malachite in there. Whack the bellows a couple of times just to make sure that is all heating up. Okay, it's melted down. Let's test this out. I should be able to just hand crank it like so, and it's working. Now this works because if you pump from Create into one of these mold tables, it instantly cools it down. So I can literally just sit here like that and it's already processed all of those ingots. It's rapid. And I'm wondering, can I place a chute on top of our crucible and throw in items like this? Oh, we can. Oh my goodness, this makes it so much easier. Right, I'm going to grab a chest. Okay, sick. So let me pop the chest on top of this chute, whack all of our malachite in, and so provided that we can keep our forge completely lit, it should melt down all of that copper, turning it into a liquid, and then we can literally just sit here for a little bit and pump it into the moulding basin, And look at that. Check that out. We're already getting our ingots. So I've finished processing through all of the malachite that we just mined up. And we got over a stack of copper ingots. That is ridiculous. I can't wait to pop that in the storage. In fact, I think we might actually run out of space to place all these guys. So we might have to do some more things with this copper. Yep, we have. Ooh, I don't know. I guess I'm going to start another pile over here for now. Ooh, and now that we've got the mechanical pump, I'm actually going to pull both of these guys away because I think we can do something else with this as well. Now, we have been collecting loads of this water, and I'm going to pinch one of these barrels. I pop that in my backpack. Let's go all the way. Let's go over here, actually, next to our farm, because we need to hydrate our crops. And I've got an idea on how we can do that. So, let's try and place a pump facing down. Oh, that's facing the wrong way. If I place the dirt, then place the pump like that. Yeah, cool. Right, now it's facing down. I'm going to remove this here. Then what I'm going to do is place our barrel with water on it with a cog like that, and then the hand crank like this, and we should be able to pump out of the barrel the water. Maybe I'll have to open it like this. Oh, yeah, it's working. We can pump out water. This is huge. What? So now these crops now have pretty good hydration. Oh, that's so good. These should grow, I think, grow quicker or give us more yield. I'm not entirely sure. So I think we've had a pretty productive episode. The biggest unlock that we've got has definitely been Create here, but we have also got wrought iron as well. And using Create, I managed to get a little water wheel set up just over here. And towards the bottom basement area of my base, I also got a little bit set up around here, automating the millstone and also, I guess, the mechanical press, but that's still a bit manual. The millstone was really easy to craft. We actually used one of the querns or kerns that we made earlier and just combine that all together to make the millstone, which makes our crushing jobs significantly easier now. Looking at the chapters, we are still only about halfway through chapter 2. We've not even got into the LV age or steam age yet, but now that we've got Create sorted, we can begin some of the automations, meaning that things will get significantly easier now. So hopefully next episode we get more into the purified iron, which is basically just regular iron, and also unlocking steel so we can get better storage solutions and then work our way into the steam age of Gregtech, which will be really cool. Cannot wait for that. That's going to be really exciting. So if you have enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like, and if you're new around here, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.